Beau and Nathan here, and now joined by our great friend Glenn Cook, Assistant General Manager. Good to see you, man.
Good to be here. I'm always fascinated by those hits. I mean,
You like that?
That's pretty
That's
awesome.
that's the business, brother. That's
That
the
keeps the
business
lights
of
on.
And also,
That's
have we do the listeners know about the sweaters? I mean,
The hoodies.
hoodies.
Oh, they
I mean
know.
the hoodies. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're covetous.
Oh,
but
my
I don't know
goodness.
if they're going to be ever be so lucky.
This was a gift from one of the greatest men to ever walk the earth.
That's right.
To us, personally gifted,
Yeah,
Mr. Brad Mellon.
Brad.
Oh,
Mellon.
nice. Yeah.
So,
Beat Mel.
We have an award on our show called the Pursuit of Perfection, aka the Brad Mellon Award, the Brad Mellon Pursuit of Perfection, and frankly, he's pursued it and he's
done it.
He's achieved it.
He's done it.
He's trying to
achieved
corner
it.
the market on the trophy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he's got it. It's named for him. It's named for him.
When it's hard, it's amazing. Like you blink and we're back here, combine again, and away we go. When you think about the amount of work that you guys put in leading up to this, and then it almost feels like this is the start of the sprint to the finish for us. Where
Long
does it
sprint.
fit for you guys in terms of the sprint to the draft?
It's funny. I've always called it a marathon sprint because you think about it. We start in really May. Our scouts do a great job of just getting this jump started with the evaluations of all the prospects. So it's really honestly like a 12, 13, 14-month process for us to really dig into these players and get to know who they are. For me, I don't know, I equate it to like going to a foreign land every year and trying to map out the terrain of these individuals, and every piece of land you go to is unique, and you're trying to figure out what makes it special. And some places look prettier on the outside, but you can't really build there, and then some places look boring. So it's an awesome process. It's a long process, and we're in the middle of it right now. We're in the thick of it. We're close.
Yeah.
We're close.
What's it like when you've watched the tape, you've talked to your area scouts who have talked to everybody that knows these prospects from their whole lives, and then you get here and you actually get a chance to sit down with some of them and get in the room. How valuable are those interviews, and what are you hoping to come out of those with?
I mean, really, it's another touch point. To your point, when you go into schools, you're trying to stay out of the way, right? Let them do what they need to do. They're all competing to try to make it to the FBS championship and host a trophy. So you want to respect their process. So you really get second and third hand information and things about the players. So this is really the first time you hear it from them, and you kind of get to let them tell their story and share a little bit about why we should consider bringing them into our organization. So it's great to sit down with these young men and get to know them a little bit.
Has there ever been an interview so powerful that it either made you guys say, yeah, we got to have this guy, it was kind of the tiebreaker, or no, like this guy is not wired the way we want,
There's been both. I got to think. But just generally, there are some times where I think you forget, and I say we, I'll include myself, that we're all humans, right? And
Yeah.
we all have life experiences that shape and mold us in good and bad ways, but you don't really realize what some of these young men have pushed through off the field in their life story to get here, whether it's dealing with homelessness, losing siblings or parents at a young age, even some of the on-field aspects of, being benched and having to scrap and claw to get your position back or, build back up your brand as a football player. So sometimes you sit there and you're like, yeah, this is what it's about, right? This is what makes football so special. All the unique stories of each player that you bring into a team, and then that team goes and flourishes. Like, I think that's what makes football so special.
And I think let's dovetail that into the on-field stuff, right? Because you have mountains and mountains of tape that you've watched. You've seen these
playing
guys
football.
in person. You've seen these guys actually playing football. Has there been an instance where everything that something happened here in testing that defied what you saw on tape that changed your mind?
Oh, many times. Many times. Yeah. The eye test is important, but it's not perfect, right? So, and sometimes you see things on film that you have questions about, and then guys come and confirm it, or you're like, well, wait a minute, I didn't know he was that explosive, or, man, he didn't run as fast as I thought he would run. So it kind of makes you step back and reevaluate the player, and you're just testing every theory, and then you get to the draft, and you got to make a decision. At some point you got to make a decision. So, yeah, we're always trying to learn something, where it's something they say, something they know, something we didn't know they understood about the game, more questions. So, yeah, I think that's all a part of it.
Yeah.
Let's step back and take kind of that 80,000-foot view. AB likes to say that you guys like to go into every off season as though you're an expansion team.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, probably in those first 3 years, you could do that in a sense because you had a quarterback on a rookie deal. And so you actually had kind of a blank slate, we'll call it. Well, now you have the franchise quarterback. He has a big number, which can be restructured. AB alluded to that. But how does that change the whole process when the most important thing is in place, finally? And then, but that causes some financial constraints elsewhere.
So one, I'll say to your part of your question, it doesn't change the process. Like, so we stick to the process every year. You know, we want to be disciplined with how we approach preparing for free agency, the draft. So I don't think it changes the process at all.
Maybe eliminates a step that we don't have to scout first-round quarterbacks.
But
right?
even still, like, you know, you still want to maintain, you know,
the knowledge,
your eyes and the knowledge of the players coming out. So yeah, we studied all the quarterbacks this year. You know, that's a part of our process. Now, how you construct and build the team, obviously you have to be strategic about it and maybe take some unique approaches depending on what Deshaun's number is or is not. But the process piece doesn't change. But obviously every year it's a new team, right? So like every team is stepping back a little bit and making sure like, hey, are we where we want to be roster-wise, short and long term, to give ourselves the best chances to compete for a championship. So. Yeah,
and the interesting thing, and I'm wondering, I don't know, I think sure in your job you always have that sense of urgency, but we are in the spot where our best players are all in their prime. I mean, we're there from that standpoint, and so we can all acknowledge there's going to be some things that need to be done to improve the team. It's crazy in the AFC, the talent in the AFC, so there's a high standard there. Is there a sense of urgency to let's go. We got to go. The window's wide open, and we got to go.
You got to be urgent every year, I think.
Yeah.
So, yes, there is a sense of urgency. I think the fans of Cleveland drive a sense of urgency. The energy that is in the city right now, you feel we want to compete, and I think everyone in the building feels the same thing. We want to compete for the opportunity to win the division, compete in the playoffs, and make it to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think if you're not urgent, that's an issue.
Yeah.
You know, if you're complacent at all in our division, in our league, it will show. So I think the simple answer is yes. Now that urgency doesn't change doing the right thing, or at least what you believe to be the right thing, but you definitely feel it, and you want to feel it. You know, I enjoy being in the store and hearing fans talk about the team and the expectations, because if you don't set high expectations, you don't have high achievements.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise, what are we doing here, right?
Right.
I mean,
well, it's just the window's different, though, right?
I agree.
Like if you have young guys who are, in their rookie deals, we got a bunch of guys we're paying who are all in their prime.
Yeah,
and so there's a different feel. It feels different. This is my fifth time over here, and this one feels different.
Added Deshaun, right?
Yeah, like we've added all these things that are like the finite things required to go do the most important thing.
Well, I'll say it's a problem you want to have, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's a good problem.
You could be talking about needing to
everything,
bringing a lot of talent, but we feel like we have a good roster, and we're going to do what we need to do to make sure it's even better this offseason.
So this is something that's happened, so hopefully you're comfortable talking about it because it ties into what you were saying. One of the guys that's in our prime right now, Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
You come to the Combine, a lot of times maybe that's when you find out that somebody like an Amari Cooper might be available, right? And I don't know if it went how it started. If we reached out to them, it was just kind of known that, hey, we're shopping Amari here. How does that process go from the moment that it is a kernel that, okay, we've got a chance to get a guy like Amari Cooper, you and AB and Kevin and Depot kind of huddling up, and here's what we go through, and kind of just walk us through that process? Because a lot of people who listen, they don't get to do this in real life. They can do it in fantasy football, right? They get to call their buddy, hey, I want this guy, you give me this guy, or Madden, right? But in the real world, how do you guys, what's that process like that lands at, in this case, I'll say it, a fleecing? It brings a guy like Amari Cooper for a very, very nice, relative to other trades that are made, a very nice value.
Yeah, we're happy with the trade for sure. I mean, I think it's part of what we talked about earlier, right? Like you want to be consistent with how you approach it. So, every year we're here, you're talking to different people at different teams and trying to understand some of their needs, some of the places they feel like they have surplus. Some of the players they're looking to acquire, positions they're looking to acquire, or positions to trade away. And so I think we do a good job of making sure we do due diligence across the league. I think we kind of scorch the earth is what we call it, in terms of making sure, hey, who could potentially be available or what team is looking for what. And then from there, it's just a matter of, hey, how does this fit? And really just, taking our steps with Kevin and say, hey, how how does Amari fit into our offense? How does he fit into the system? What would we do with him? How would we use him? Things of that nature. And then kind of transitioning from there once you feel good about, all right, he's a good fit. He's a good guy. He's a good person, which Amari is, I think you guys all know. He's a great individual. And then from there, it's just, okay, how could we strategically make this move and put ourselves in the best position to also do other things we needed to do. So I think what made it unique was Deshaun wasn't on the roster yet. And so I'm sure some people were like, hey, how does this fit into
we're just getting a great player for
the big pie. But that's what it is. You're never not trying to make your team better. And obviously there were some other things going on, but we just felt like he was such a great addition, and fortunately it worked out last year. He played really well. That we ended up doing it.
Is it fun in negotiation? Because in our world, which would be in a fantasy thing, sometimes you throw things out like a low ball, and you think that there's no way, and then they're like, "Sure, we'll do that." And you're like, "Okay, deal. You guys sell a deal."
And I'll say you're usually not the only suitor, so there's not.
There's always competition.
There's not many of those situations where you're coming in, and guys across the league are pretty talented too, and they do a good job of making sure they build their rosters and manage their resources well. So, you often have to make strong offers, and it just worked out. Like sometimes it's just a good pairing, and it worked out.
Yeah, it's one of those things I think though that I would think would be really exciting about doing the job because
goodness.
you have these processes that are built in, and the processes are built in so that there's contingency upon contingency upon contingency. But then at any moment, you have to be as nimble as possible with all of the contingencies when something like this happens. So you can plan everything out all you want, but then all of a sudden it's like, wait, can we do that? This can happen? And then that domino.
And then the other piece of that is you get to third base and you can't come home.
Right?
So you do all the work, and you make strides in conversation, and you get the deal worked out, and then one night they just call and say, oh, we changed our mind, or we're moving into a different team for a better quote unquote price. So there's probably more of those than maybe sometimes is.
Would people's jaw drop with some of those?
Yeah, like you'd be surprised.
I bet we would.
Some of the
you get right there, and you're like, oh
no. A lot of almost where you checked in and you're like, hey, there's a chance we can get this guy.
Yeah.
And a few weeks down the road, they either change their mind or it just doesn't work out. So we're always trying. We're always trying. At least we are.
Yeah. You mentioned the fans earlier, and I think for players as well, and maybe even coaches, although they're very involved with you guys, it's very collaborative in that way. But you got to wait till September, right? You got to wait till September for things to actually happen and to kind of get the taste out of your mouth. And it's true for you guys as well. But in the front office, at least, this is your time to go shopping and to try to change what September will be. So you almost have to move on really quickly, right? Maybe perhaps quicker than the players or even the coaches who really can't do anything until the fall.
You really do. I mean, as soon as the season ends, like our season ends, we go through a thorough process of first vetting our own team and understanding where we are and potential strengths and weaknesses, and then move to that next step of okay, how do we make improvements? So, you do kind of have to flush it pretty quick. But then on the inverse, we get to September and there's not much else, we can do. You have the trade deadline, which is another big opportunity. But for the most part now, we're spectators too.
It's kind of like a Madden, right? You put it together, and now you got to sim it, and you just have to sit there and watch
what
the outcomes are. Yeah, I hope it works.
The only difference is the sim is way slower.
Much excruciating. Right? Sim to end of season. We made it.
You can't do 10 seasons in an hour
over 18 weeks
like I could as a kid. So, no, that's what makes it fun, but also sometimes excruciating to go through.
Buddy, it is always a pleasure to talk with you. We thank you
I gotta
so
get
much
a sweater. I gotta get a part.
We know the
part
guy.
Of the crew.
We do know the guy.
We know the
These
guy.
are hot. I mean, there hasn't been somebody. Everybody's sitting down.
Glenn, we had this. It literally stopped Pete Carroll in his tracks when he saw the hoodies.
Yeah,
he stopped right there and was to his handler. He said, "I like
this.
This
might have to go in the store."
Yeah.
No.
Exclusive.
This is
like
rarefied
I don't know.
air.
Like
This is
off-whites or
rarefied
Jays.
air. Yeah,
maybe do a draw, something
All
like
right,
that.
Yeah.
Maybe a draw. That's
now for friends with a program such as yourself, well that's
now,
different. But
that's
I mean,
a whole different scenario.
I
feel like this has quickly become the most coveted thing. It used to be.
Oh, absolutely.
It used to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. The next level is next. I'll see you guys.
We'll see you guys. We'll see you down the road. Glenn, great stuff, man.
Appreciate it.
Good talking to you, buddy.